Ba, ba. It is 8 o'clock Sunday. You know what that means, everyone. The articles of ADOS is live. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Periscope. Live on Twitch. Live, where are we at? Live on
YouTube.
YouTube. Yes. Thank you, Daud. YouTube. I am your host, Lisa Todd, along with my co-host,
Daud Diazad.
Daud Juzon. We are here to discuss episode 7. Episode 7 was called Black People Are Dying the Most, so let's reopen. That article was interviewed, and I look forward to discussing that a little bit more. Also, if you have any questions, whether you're on Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, wherever you're watching from, just type it below and I'll see it, somebody will see it, and we'll get answers to your questions. The best answer gets the promo pack. Shout out to David. I sent out his package Saturday. Was it Saturday? Friday, Saturday, one of those days. So you should be receiving your promo pack real soon. So go ahead. So let's go ahead and just get started. We shared articles this week from the NPR, the Atlantic, Market Watch, Newsweek, and the Heritage Foundation. And then our personality piece was about whether or not ADOS, Black Americans, African Americans, however you identify yourself, whether or not you should support a candidate if they are only going to give you 50% of what you're asked for, or they'll give you 100% of something, but not reparations. Well, that's not really 100%. 90% of what you want and no reparations. So, Daud, how did you feel about that personality piece, that personality question?
I liked it very much. I was at first thinking in my mind I was going to be flexible on it, but when I remember the things I personally experienced and the things I know about the trends that are taking place, especially among ADOS children, there was no other doubt in my mind. I had to be a hard line and say nothing less but success, nothing less but reparations, nothing less than reparations now.
Right. I had asked that question because our ADOS Columbus leader, Mark Stevenson, when Michael Bloomberg and Joe Biden were kind of rising, Michael Bloomberg was giving his best effort with all that money to win over the Black vote. He was offering a lot of stuff, but it wasn't reparations. Joe Biden's offers the lift every voice, but there's no reparations. So, for example, Marianne Williamson offered reparations, as well as, what's the other guy's name? I forget his name. He didn't win, the other billionaire, but if they do offer, like, for example, reparations, it's not enough. It's billions instead of trillions. So can you support a candidate? And I agree with Daud that you shouldn't support it if you're standing firm on what you believe, and you believe that you deserve and your community deserves reparations, then you have to move on. And then I understand people love to vote. Black people love to exercise their right to vote. And if they don't, I don't know what they feel is happening. But in the past, even voting for that lesser of the evil, even voting for that candidate that's offering you minimum at best, your needs are not going to get met whether you vote for them or you don't vote for them. So I propose that sometimes you have to lose to win. You might not win this election cycle, you might not win the next election cycle, but 3-4 times of winning, they get the message. We got to give them something. You don't get anything by automatically voting for them continually when they're not offering you anything. They know that they already have your vote secured. There's nothing that they need to do. So,
And the truth is, they've already
uh,
been they've already been losing by voting the lesser of two evils. I
right,
believe I posted that scenario of what happens over time, and that's happened in this country. It's also happened in other democracies where they've done the same thing. Over time, you and your issues get pushed further and further to the side as the lesser of two evils. Solutions or answers in voting reflect the interest of power in the society. So the people
right,
who have power, white elites who are ultimately conservative, that's where we have Joe Biden and Trump basically being conservative, but being seen as one being on the political right, Trump, and the other being seen as being on the political left, or what they're calling center, because they got to say that
right,
to appeal to white voters. But in reality, they're both are on the right politically.
right. Hello, Vicky. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us and sharing the live. So when we do see, I didn't mean to cut you off, Daud,
That's all
but
right. I was
when we
done.
do see, when we do see these candidates, vet them good. Let other people know that, hey, they're not meeting our needs, so we know who's a good candidate and who's not. So if Joe Biden, in the end, Joe Biden is not offering reparations, which we need. Y'all see what the effects of COVID-19 is doing to our community, and they offer everything but reparations. They offer slices of pieces of pies, promises down the line, no guarantee that any of his proposals will be pushed through the Congress and the Senate. So really, you could just say anything you want. So, but with the down vote ballot, down ballot vote, um, it's one other strategy that you can incorporate if you feel that a candidate is not offering you 100% what you're asking for. Is your right to um, stand up for what you believe if a candidate is not giving you what you need. Everybody votes how they want to vote. ADOS should not be shamed into voting any other way than any other person that votes. So don't feel ashamed for however you vote if that vote is for the community and for bettering the ADOS life that you're living. All right, what was next? Were there any rapid newses that you wanted to discuss? Some of them were uh, the one where Hispanics were made white. One was, let me see, the Trump campaign reworks its pitch to Black voters after the pandemic slams the economy. Majority of the new COVID, now that was interesting. Majority of the new COVID-19 hospitalizations in New York are people who stayed at home.
Yes.
How are they getting COVID at home? If you know,
As you recall, I've been talking to you privately about things that we miss, and this is in line with everybody's concerned about COVID. I mentioned this on Sister Angela Nirvana's Family of ADOS TV show. And she too was shocked. Well, here it goes. It's not that difficult. In December, as of December, American authorities knew that both Wuhan, China, and Lombardy, Italy, had a particularly large number of deaths associated with the virus.
Right.
It had three characteristics: one, densely populated; two, elderly, and also with immune systems that have been compromised in various degrees. And the last and major category where I knew as of early January that if it did make it to United States, it would impact disproportionately the poor, disproportionately the Black poor. And that last category is living in close proximity and growing up in close proximity to polluting industries. Now, you know why they discontinued or released EPA from culpability for monitoring these polluting agencies? That came out of nowhere to a lot of people. Well, the reason is that a good legitimate claim could be made from the people that are suffering in those areas, because in their homes, while they're under quarantine, whatever they have is getting worse because they're living in toxic environments. So if there's any element of the virus, and I'm submitting also, they're calling everything the virus. The seasonal flu is 2.5 times greater than COVID-19. Yet you don't hear people dying of that, but I submit a lot of people are dying of it. In February alone, I'm sorry, going off track, but I've got to make this point. In February alone, by mid-February, over 200,000 Americans had died of seasonal flu. Only 20 some odd thousand had died of COVID by that time. So all this talk about COVID-19 is, I submit, it has to be, because they're not mentioning it at all. A lot of people are really dying of seasonal flu, regular seasonal flu, and it's being labeled as COVID-19. So that aside, with people believing in the COVID-19 crisis, your government knew that people that lived in areas where they had grown up, especially disproportionately suffering from asthma, lung related, that means oxygen quality related, that means contaminated by contaminants in the air because they live near polluting industries, made them more susceptible to illness. So these people that where this came from in New York, I believe it was Market Watch, were checking in the hospitals, explaining they haven't been out and about. They've been abiding by the quarantine measures. They've been at home, and they were still getting sick. Well, this is one of the reasons why. And the people disproportionately going to be affected by that, and I submit also the people disproportionately going to be dying are African Americans that are not elderly and that are not necessarily even living in highly densely populated areas, but they're living near polluted industries. No one's even talking about this.
Right. Yeah, so that's an environmental reparations package that we need.
And I worked on that team to ask for that very thing, to demand that very thing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if they're not willing to admit that there's global warming, I don't want to be pessimistic, but it's a fight that's going to be uphill for that. And cleaning up our environment will improve our lives, will improve our health. So without our health, we don't have anything else. And so, you know, health and environment has to be on every Black agenda that is proposed to the Congress, to the Senate, to whoever. Health and environmental must be included. If it's not, then it's not thorough. All right, thank you for that. So our main event for episode 7 was called "The Coronavirus Was an Emergency Until Trump Found Out Who Was Dying." Now, it was not just, the title is, the author obviously does not like Trump, but inside the article written by Adam Soror from The Atlantic, it wasn't just Trump. It was conservative talk TV, conservative radio, Tucker Carlson, what's the big loudmouth man? Rush Limbaugh, and some other unrecognizable names in the conservative movement, that once they got the numbers that the most affected community was Black people, all of a sudden the emergency, everything must be shut down, all of that came to an abrupt halt. Now it is, because everything is shut down and they're not most effective, then it's fascism, it's slavery. We're being told to stay in our homes against our will. This is fascism. All the protests started happening, and it no longer was a national emergency. It became, hey, Black people, hey, Hispanics, you know, save Big Mama and save your abuelo. Stop drinking, stop smoking. And when that happened, all you got was news articles, news reports that the Black community is most effective. I mean, it was 10 articles a day on that COVID-19 is affecting ADOS the most. But that's all it was, talk. Articles, news, town halls, webinars. What can the Black community do to stop the coronavirus, and why are so many Black people dying of the coronavirus more than any other people? As Daud so eloquently always explained, well, it's the environments we're living in, it's the underlying conditions that we already have. It's the Jim Crow and the redlining that we've already been through. It's slavery that we've already been through, all leading up to our condition. And so in the article, this reporter or author, writer, whatever you want to call him, kind of focused on Trump. At first it was the elite people were contracting it for, celebrities, people that travel in and out of the country internationally, jet setting. Yes, they contacted it more because of what the traveling that they were doing. And then they brought it back to us. But he focuses a lot on Trump, but it's not just Trump, it's the whole movement. And in our commentary, Daud, you were stating that this was just a way of pitting us against one another. Was it something to that effect?
Yes, I said they're setting up a false dichotomy ultimately that has some truth, but it doesn't answer the long-term outcomes that are negatively affecting us. We are going to be living beyond this pandemic. So if we're focusing so much on the argument about what the Republicans are doing or what the Democrats are doing, and not focusing on the solution of what needs to take place for the long term, then the next pandemic, we're going to be making the same argument, and it'll be true. They don't care about us. That's true. But the reality is we have to sharpen our fight so that we confront them on that. At the same time, we also force them into a long-term strategy, which it means reparations, but also it means in the case of situations like this, while our people are still disproportionately in those high pollution areas, that they fix that from a device they can have in their homes that clear out all kinds of horrible materials that burden their immune systems, all the way to putting in them in clean, non-toxic FEMA trucks that will secure them where they're at. If they choose to stay in the area, then they have to stay because they disproportionately work what's called the essential jobs.
Right. So, and I kept trying to bring it back to what the article was saying, and that was they didn't take this when they thought that they were dying the most.
Which is
It
true.
was in a national emergency. I kept trying to bring it back. It's true. It was an extreme. They shut the country down when they thought they was dying.
That's right.
The most.
Mm-hmm.
And when it was us, then all of a sudden, all these conservative voices, switched tunes, and now we need to reopen. Now we need you to get back to work. You're right, David. Get back to work.
Not only that, Tone even brought out the fact that some black people came forward and said, this is what black people need to do to stop this. You need to stop the drinking. You need to stop the violating the quarantine. All of it was conservative. And he was right to say that. That's right. It was conservative voices, even among them black liberals, coming out saying we need to do this or that instead of demanding government deal with the issue that we are going to be susceptible to this sort of thing because of the decades of redlining, because of the decades of zoning laws that allow polluting industry to cohabitate our spaces.
Right. Yeah. So
while we talk about, it's true, we talk about how they changed focus. That is true. When it was portrayed as a black problem, but pointing that out to them is equivalent to saying, on the slave plantation, please stop beating my children or my husband or my wife, massa. And he may do that, or he may not, when the focus needs to be on getting off of massa's plantation. That's where I'm at. We need to focus on solving that dilemma, besides pointing out the truth of the harm that's being caused of where we're at, but it also needs to be focused on a solution that'll be more long-term and everlasting. And getting into the debate or the issue of what conservatives say or may not be saying, and blacks who imitate them, is necessary, but we can't stop there. We got to go further. That's all I was trying to point out. I wasn't negating what you're experiencing. I used to have that discussion and debates in my 20s. No, I can't stay there because I know it's only short-term thinking. We've got to go long-term.
Yeah, and long term is getting us out of these toxic environments.
Exactly.
Okay, I got you.
Okay.
I got you. Another thing that we introduced in the Catch the Fire segment, we announced, along with Triangle ADOS and I think it's Concerned Black American Citizens, starting a petition to get redress for Black Americans for the COVID-19 impact. Just go to, I think it's up here, go to wethepeople.com to sign the petition. The petition is called Phase 4 Emergency COVID-19 Relief for Black Americans. You can also go on their website, cbacusa.org, and sign a petition. It's going to be an uphill battle to get those 100,000 signatures, but somebody got to ask. If our gatekeeper leaders are not asking, we got to ask. If no one is going to ask, then nobody can say yes or no. So you have to ask so you can get an answer. And then once you get that answer, you know how to move and not move in certain arenas, right? So please support the petition and sign it so that we can at least get the White House to look at the agenda that we want for COVID relief. Because as you all know, we were not included in the HEROES Act that they just passed. Our Black leaders were standing right beside Nancy Pelosi and just accepted that we were not included in her plan. So they're okay with being in the room, standing next to Nancy Pelosi, and that's it. They're okay with not doing anything for you. And if they did speak up to her and somebody said, well, what about the Black community? I bet you there was a Black leader that did that and they got shut down, and it's not the time. we always get hit with it's not the time. You,
And
you
I
got
also
anything
and
towards that?
I also wonder where Joyce Beatty was at on that. Just
Yeah,
saying.
I am too. I really am too. She likes standing next to Nancy Pelosi though. She really likes that. Um, think. Oh, then and lastly, in your serious question segment, you had a question, and it came from uh D.
D. Mm-hmm.
Yes, her name was D, and her question was, do you remember? Oh my goodness.
Yes, I have it here.
Okay, go ahead.
Her serious question was, "Hi, I have a serious question. I don't believe our government when it comes to the coronavirus, but I do believe Black people are dying. So how is herd immunity gonna help people that are dying?" And you want me to give my response?
Yeah, short. What do you call it? Short version of it. Yes.
I'll just do number one because it's in three parts. The first one out of five parts is, you are wisely not. I have to do two. I'm sorry. You are wisely not blindly trusting the government or CIA influenced white domination racist media for that matter. The big white lies of 9/11, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, to the economic standings of ADOS in American society, otherwise known as the decadent veil, are just a few examples of how the government and media should be more highly scrutinized by all ADOS. And then leading, and then along the lines of the virus, a leading peer-reviewed scientists in the field have expressed concerns on how the coronavirus is being hyped. Have you heard their concerns in the US media? I asked her. And then I go on to more directly respond, and this will be the last one.
Mm-hmm.
On the CDC's own website, you will find a graph of the period from 1999 to 2017, which was a year of the seasonal flu or influenza outbreak. And it does so by deaths by race, where there are just 3 year exceptions to our constant disproportionate deaths. Yet there was no fanfare, no calls for mass quarantines, no losses of jobs or businesses, even through the years of our ADOS disproportionate deaths, when even more through this period, more Americans died relative to now. Isn't this interesting? Well, through these years, Americans were using just herd immunity because science relates that in the long term, less deaths result due to herd immunity. Initially, there will be a spike in death rates, yet in the midterm, this tends to plateau. Those initial death rates have always primarily impacted the elderly, those already with challenges to their immune systems, with comorbidities. Also, because our ADOS disproportionately being redlined and zoned into high pollution areas due to environmental racism, we've continued to endure the burden of disproportionately challenged immune system function. Thus, our ADOS higher rates of death during most flu seasons during this period. So we've always been practicing herd immunity. This is nothing new. We have just, what is new is the mass quarantine. So you got to ask, in times when this virus is less virulent than the past viruses, more deaths occurred by Black people and white people and red people and whatever other people in years past. So we went through periods where we had more virulent, more capacities for viruses to cause us harm. Yet now the coronavirus is less virulent, less harmful, less transferable than the seasonal flu was in 2017. Yet today we're doing all this. You gotta ask why. So beyond asking if herd immunity works when we've been using it for decades, we need to ask why quarantining now when it's not accepted by all scientists at the top of the field, and Black people are still getting sick and dying by remaining in quarantine, as we discussed earlier. I'm done.
Right. All right. All right. Thank you. And I know you had also wanted to follow up with another listener that also had questions regarding your response to the serious question.
The gentleman I told you about?
Yes.
Well, like I said, he took his remarks off the page. So if I go to my page, I can get his name if you want me to get his name.
Well, no, I just thought you said that you wanted to also answer some of his questions he had.
Yes,
Didn't you send me? Didn't you say, or you were just going to do it in the group?
I was going to do it in the group. I didn't plan on doing it now.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we look forward to your discourse with the gentleman regarding herd immunity. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Looking for questions now or statements. David, thank you as always for listening. Your package is on the way. Miss Vicki Lewis, thank you for joining us earlier. Joseph Andrew, thank you for joining us. Brandon Reed, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your support. Share the podcast, share the lives, share the articles. Also, let us know if there's any articles that you want us to focus and feature. Thank you, Antoine Foster, for always sharing articles with us. Yes, anybody in the group, thank you for sharing. Thank you for your comments. Our comments are picking up. And people are sharing a lot more, and we appreciate that. We want you to, in the group, feel free to ask questions and share information with each other. We also go ahead.
We also have well over 100 members now in a month's operation, so I'm very happy about that.
Yes, please keep sharing the group and inviting your friends into the group. We welcome everyone, ADOS allies, friends. We welcome everyone that would like to participate in the group.
132 as of right now. It was 122 this morning.
Oh, all right, 132 as of today. So thank you for all the new members that joined, and thank you for supporting our podcast. It all flows back to the podcast and bringing you news and information you may have missed. It's hard to miss it though around us. Me and Daud will get you that information. But even with the little bit that we share, it's so much more. It's so much more. And so hopefully we can bring that to you on a regular basis. All right, so that's the end of the live. It's pretty quick today, unless Daud got more to discuss.
I only want to discuss a little bit on the rapid news segment where I use the White Domination Racist Heritage Foundation as the source for the issue of Hispanics and their origins. I chose that article because one, like our voting habits should be and our friends in political spaces should be, we should have temporary people who have our interests, not political parties that may or may not accept us and our interests and needs. Mm-hmm. I utilize their thing to make the point that even on the political right, they acknowledge that the Hispanic designation was purposely created. And where he went and emphasized was basically appealing to the upper class among that Hispanic elite that always wanted to identify as white. And so that's why I presented that to people. And he did this based on the history of them complaining when whites wanted to designate them as Mexican. They fought against that in court and they even won. We are just revisiting it today after the turbulent 60s because a lot of them were upset with automatically their upper class being accepted as white while they were picking and doing things in the fields. And there you have Cesar Chavez and other activists in that realm vying for their needs and interests to be looked at, which made it a non-white issue. Therefore, Nixon very wisely and evil geniusly determined the concept of Hispanic,
Mm.
and that's why I wanted that out there.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, they won't have, many immigrants won't hesitate to make sure everyone knows they are everything but Black.
Yeah.
All right, that is it for today. Thank you for joining us with this live. If you have questions regarding, if you are locally here in Columbus, Ohio, and want to connect with ADOS, please go to adoscolumbus.org. If you are anywhere in the world, you can also go to ados101.com for information on our who ADOS is, who ADOS is, what we stand for, what are we fighting for. Please go to ADOS101.com. Please watch all our ADOS content creators. That includes Yvette Carnell, Antonio Brown, Sandy Darity, Kevin Cosby, Kevin Cosby, and articles of ADOS.
Also mention the other designation
Black
that you showed me
Civics.
today.
Who's that? Oh yeah, Black Civics. So it's a lot, and we'll share their information of people that are offering information and content. Please, if you're in a city that has a chapter, reach out to them, get involved. We need you to get involved. We need you to get off the sidelines. We need you to get off the fence and working to create a better future for ADOS. That's it. That's it. See y'all next week. See y'all Thursday for the new episode, episode 8. And then see you next Sunday. All right. Peace. What do you say, fam? Peace, fam. Peace, peace, peace.
Peace.
We out. All right. Wait till I end this recording.
I'm on mute.
Okay. End the meeting. Hold on. Whoops. Let me get this still recording. I know I am.